back to your players, your audience. I know that you've all touched on the fact that you like creating these games because you don't answer to a corporation or a higher power. But you do answer to your audience. Has there been a decision that any of you have ever made in the run of your game that was a conflict with what you personally know? So you went with something that the audience was expecting rather than where you wanted to take the direction of your game?
I do that all the time. I'm actually, even though I'm making the game, I'm actually rooting for the audience. And whenever they make a stupid decision, we have to follow through with it. I'm like, oh, don't do that. That way. So yeah, I mean, there have been many times where the audience is thinking certain things or dragging their feet in certain areas and not asking really what I would think would be an easy question. And we just have to kind of go with what they experience. It was actually really a learning thing for me. You learn how to communicate with the people that are following your show. Well, and I've designed my game so that my main two characters really are stupid and don't really know anything. And they're very pleasant to look at, and they're friendly. And they're actually doing a lot of the in-character interactions. The actors are actually doing some interactions just as well. But there's a plot that is unfolding in my game. It's going to unfold whether the characters in the audience are aware of it or not. And so there really is no, I wish I could nudge people. And oftentimes when the characters in chat and they're like, well, Madison said blue. But Madison doesn't know. Jeromy knows. Jeromy was in chat saying blue, then they can be like, yeah, it's blue. But Madison, the character, she doesn't know anything. And so I get, there are times, there are times whenever the audience comes up with brilliant ideas, and they're brainstorming in a forum, and there are things that they come up with that I wish were the plots of the game sometimes, and just little notes. And there are times where I can create something that they thought of, hey, this would be cool with this, and if that makes sense, it doesn't deter too much from the big picture, then I try to throw it in.
Just to continue the theme of indie. What do you guys think of, or how do you guys perceive your relationship to other creators in the genre? Is there a community of creators? Or do you guys feel more like you're sort of in a vacuum, paddling upstream?
Well, I've tried to, in the past 6 months, I've tried to become in this community as best I can. So far so good. What's weird about LT15 is that there was a slew of people who all of a sudden made small games for that community specifically. And that community of people who were making these games, it was kind of tight. It was people that knew each other. And there was attempts at collaborating with these people and tying games over, overlapping games and stuff. And so in that community, there's a lot of camaraderie. It was actually very interesting. So guys,
I'm going to expand on what he said. Do you think it would help each of you as indie creators to have a more formal place or some way that you can formally go and ask questions? And I know particularly for you two who are new, who may not have the friendships that Brooke has with other indie designers, would it help to have some more formal way for you to contact them and ask questions in some kind of forum?
I've done that. I've contacted people from other games and asked specific questions. I forget his name. It's terrible. But he's the guy that is the writer for 14 Entertainment. Big Sean's over there. Yeah, I've emailed him. And I didn't know this. I didn't know him at all. He didn't know me. I was like, "This is what I'm doing. What do you think?" And he responded back a couple of times with good ideas and good things. So yeah, I'm not afraid to ask. Whether it's formal or informal. Fair question. I think one of the things you get, I recognize that when I'm collaborating with a bunch of people, that there's a certain amount of my vision that gets watered down, and there's always those brilliant moments that you discover through collaboration. It's always like we're working together, we're talking about this, and someone
Like, was it a complete smash with the way you thought things would be?
After two things for me. One, preparing for this rather than last night for the summer, I should have spent more time instilling my vision in the people that I was working with. I didn't spend enough time doing that, and there were some things that were lost that were in the vision that I had for it, that I just should have invested more time in that communication. But on a different level, I've actually learned that the hardest puzzles in my game are the puzzles of social interaction. You know, part of the game, which is obviously the players, a couple players actually here today, is cracking masks and getting to know this girl. And just because of the fan base and the demographics of the fan base, that's turning out to be the most difficult thing for that, like figuring out how to interact with a pretty girl. That's surprise, I thought that would be pretty easy.
I have a question about that. You've read a lot of people talk about creating hours and running that you really need to be prepared. And you know, the fan base, your audience really wants that preparation. But how do you do that in a real-time story? And how do you know when to start? I heard just do it, but at the same time, have something prepared. Is there any advice you can give on where you can find that balance?
I would say it's hard to comment not knowing what you're making or if you're making something. But in general, you know, like she said, you know, you want to have everything written. You know, you want to have all your backstories all written and ready. If there's any kind of design you want that to be done in terms of puzzles or even websites or whatever, how you're doing your stuff. But I think in terms of general tenets, things that help me is I try to keep an ear open to what the audience is doing and saying. I try to be just a good listener throughout the deal, and I try to be really flexible and decisive. In a real-time situation, there's really not a lot of time to debate, you know, and especially if you're dependent on what the audience is doing. You know, you just say, hey, we did this, let's do this in response. You just make a decision. And sometimes making a decision, even the wrong decision, or even making a mistake, is better than sitting in the middle of the decision. And so, the flexibility of having a small game, you can make a decision like that, and take a vote amongst yourself, and just move forward. I think those kinds of things have served me pretty well.
So it looks like our time has just run up. Do you have anything you want to say, like last phrase?
Yeah.
One more question.
Oh, I have one more comment on this. I think you need to be careful also not to bite off more than you chew. If you're like, you know what, I'm going to shoot and write 7 videos a week, no, you're probably not going to do that. And you probably should be more realistic about your time. And, you know what I mean? You just have to assess your resources and realize that you're going to be spending time fixing shit or responding in a way that you didn't expect to have to respond. So you just need more time to do that.
So the question online, a lot of folks are asking.
Sorry, we don't have